TNCRadio.live, your commercial driver navigation station.
Welcome in TNC Radio.live. This is Clutch Time Sports. And now here are your hosts, Anderson and Banker.
Good evening to all you wonderful truckers on the highways, byways, and freeways for us. We want to say salutations. Hope it's not too bad in the cold part of the country. Hope it's not too hot in the hot part of the country. Well, you know, when I think about it, it hasn't been hot at all. Thank you for joining us tonight. We are Clutch Time Sport. Ivan Anderson and Banker on TNCRadio.live. Mr. Banker, how are you doing tonight, man? How are you feeling?
I'm doing great. I'm pumped. As you know, we're getting into my wheelhouse here the next 3 weeks. But I was just kind of wondering, after you started with that introduction, how many times have you said the word salutation over the last month of your life? Or is this what happens when you turn years old like you did on Monday? Everybody, happy birthday to Mr. Anderson. He turned years old on Monday, so happy birthday.
Thank you, sir. I had fun with the family. We went out to a late dinner because the children had to keep up with their normal schedule, and you know that's how it goes when you roll in a family. And as you men out there know that you are married with children, you have no say what is going on in your life. You just show up and do it. So,
well, I mean, if you would think, at least I would hope that you got to at least choose the birthday dinner place.
I did. That was probably the one thing I got.
Happy birthday.
Little Marilyn Monroe there.
Happy birthday, Mr. President.
I have the power.
Happy birthday to you.
Thank you. Oh my goodness. You know, it is that time of the year. We call it kind of the low. We're really into the last few games of NBA. Football's done. Basketball is coming towards playoff game, and hockey is doing the same thing, coming around the bend to its playoff time. And this is baseball now, and it is your wheelhouse, JB. It's something that you absolutely love. It is. We all have our favorite sports, and this is your favorite sport. And I say, why waste time? Let's get into what it is we were talking about on and off the radio that we said we we're going to do this week as we preview the NFL. Now we're going to start previewing Major League Baseball.
Yeah, let's do it. So, as you know, we have 4 quarters here on Clutch Time. And so in this first quarter, let's preview the American League East, which I know is the bread and butter of Mr. Ivan Anderson. And as we go through these, we'll obviously have Mr. Tom Kelly chime in as he so pleases as well. But, you know, as we look at the American League East, you have to start and stop every conversation with the Yankees, who, of course, finished a game under 100 wins last year. And they, of course, had the record-breaking season from Aaron Judge, who had 62 home runs in a contract year. And that, of course, translated to a $40 million per year contract over 9 years. So what do the Yankees do to make a bigger splash even after that and get above 100 wins this year? Well, they went and got Carlos Rodon from the Giants, which I'm actually kind of bummed about. So they're going to have a 3-headed monster there in the starting rotation with Garrett Cole and Nestor Cortez. But what's interesting is you wonder how Aaron Judge is going to be after a career year. Well, if they could get any kind of major production again from Giancarlo Stanton, DJ LeMahieu, and others to go with Judge and Anthony Rizzo, Gleyber Torres, and Josh Donaldson, I mean, we've got another version of Murderer's Row here if we really think about it.
I like the way you pulled out Murderer's Row. You just had to pull that out, didn't you?
Well, I mean, it is Murderer's Row. I mean, we're not talking about the 1920s, but we're talking about the 2020s. Yeah. And, you know, they very well.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Alabama's basketball team.
Oh,
Too
that much
soon,
hate
Tom.
from
Too
Yankees, Mr.
soon.
Kelly? Oh my goodness!
That sounds like an Astros fan with a comment.
Oh
right
my
there.
gosh! Does he have an axe to grind with me?
Well, we'll go back to the Yankees because I know Mr. Anderson wants to talk about them here in a second. The Blue Jays, who finished 7 games behind them last year, seem to be on the track that everyone kind of expects them to be. They're young, but they still have George Springer. They still have Vlad Jr. They've got Bo Bichette. Alek Manoah is in his prime, but they've done some tweaking and trying to get better defensively. They took out Lourdes Gurriel Jr. and Teoscar Hernandez, replaced them with Kevin Kiermaier in center field, Dalton Varsho, who could play basically all over the field, including the infield and behind the plate if they really need to. They have a chance to really make a splash in this division again this year, and that's because I think Tampa, who finished behind them, they were 13 games out of first place. You know, they always have basically no household names on their team every year, but seem to find themselves in contention because they always have a knack about going and finding young players, and they're almost the American League or all of Major League farm system. But they've got Shane McClanahan. They've lost Shane Baz already on the starting rotation for the year. They hope to get something out of Tyler Glass now, who's only appeared in no more than 14 games going back since 2018, and he's been one of those guys that they seemingly try to rely upon, but they just can't do it. So it's going to be hard for the Rays to finish better than what I think they did last year at 86-76. But the one team that is very intriguing, could be the biggest boom or bust of this division, and maybe even in the American League, is the Baltimore Orioles, who surprised everybody by going 83-79 last year. They went 56-37 after May 1st before they kind of fizzled out a bit in September. And that's because they brought up catching prospect Adley Rutschman last year. And they didn't go out and spend a lot of money on a bunch of free agents and are kind of just banking on these young studs, especially in the pitching staff, spearheaded by Kyle Bradish and Dean Kramer. And perhaps their biggest blue chipper, Grayson Rodriguez, to come up and make a big impact this year. And then there are the Red Sox. The Red Sox finished last year. And I know that Ivan's laughing because as a Yankee fan, nothing's happier to him than that. And for a team that's really been successful here in the 21st century, that was kind of a nightmare season for them this year. And if they want to sniff 500, they've got some work to do. They lost Xander Bogaerts and J.D. Martinez from the lineup last year. They re-signed Rafael Devers, and they got Corey Kluber for the starting rotation. But this is kind of an older and younger team all at the same time. They still have Trevor Story on the mend from his injury and don't expect him back out of the All-Star break. And the jury's still kind of out to see whether he could even hit outside of Colorado because there just isn't a big enough sample size, at least in the American League. So, gentlemen, I don't honestly see a big differentiator this year to say that these teams are going to finish much different than they did last year, except for maybe I think Baltimore could leapfrog Tampa into third place for this division.
I would agree with you about Baltimore, possibly leapfrogging Tampa. But my concern with the Yankees is after you get out of Rodon and Nestor, you already know you already know who our starting pitcher is going to be. But after you get out of those three, I'm not so sure about 4 and 5. And that's my biggest concern is the arms to go the distance for the season. I mean, when I think about the Yankees, I said to you guys last year, the Yankees peaked at about 85 games, maybe 86, and they just kind of inch their way over those last 10 games, and it showed in the postseason. I mean, I was so concerned about them even getting anywhere deep into the postseason, and they didn't. So I'm really concerned about the Yankees' arms. Toronto is dangerous. If they're going to be that young and they get to play with no restraint, without worrying about anything on them, I think they could be a very dangerous team. And I think they definitely will challenge the Yankees in the East there. Boston Red Sox, I'm sorry.
It's going to be a struggle, I think.
It's going to be a real struggle for them. I know 78 and 84 they did last season. Josh, what do you think about their pitching core? I mean, really
It's
drill
old.
down past their second.
Yeah, it's old and it's unreliable at this point. So you're going to have to resurrect like 2018 again for this team to really be serious contenders for even a wild card spot. I just don't see it happening.
Can they make a move by trading deadline, you think, to strengthen that
There's
up?
There's always that case, but I think ultimately I don't. If they would have,
They're sellers.
I was going to say they would be sellers at that point. I think, and if they wanted to spend money, they could have done that in the offseason and brought Xander Bogaerts back, or they could have brought JD Martinez back, or brought somebody else in.
No, they're hoping Sale has a great season so they can get the most from him at the trading deadline.
100%. Couldn't have put it any better.
That is jacked up.
Now, and Tom, do the Yankees even scare you as an Astros fan at this point?
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah. The Yankees are tough, and nobody should take them lightly. And they made some good moves in the off season, strong moves, and they're right there. I'm not sold on the Blue Jays the way others are. I don't think that the shifting around in the outfield is necessarily the thing that is going to fix them and account for 10 more wins this year than it did last year. I don't see that.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think the most pressure that they're going to have is going to be put on themselves.
Yeah. Well,
and as a young team, that's hard sometimes to overcome.
Yeah. I think the Blue Jays are a couple of years away, and quite frankly, it's going to take the Yankees to take a downturn for the Blue Jays to get where they want to go. The math just isn't there for me.
Yeah, I agree. And as we preview this MLB season over the next 3 weeks, we're going to dig into the National League next week, but we're going to also, on the following week after that, we'll have our predictions specifically as to what we think is going to happen with all these divisions. So we're kind of saving that for a couple weeks from now, giving you kind of an overview of what's going to happen or what we are seeing in this offseason and upcoming season for these teams. But as we come back in the second quarter, we'll have Kelly's Corner, and then we'll dive into the AL Central in the third quarter. You're listening to Clutch Time Sports right here on TNCRadio.live. Hello, friends. This is Josh Banker from Clutch Time Sports on Wednesday nights at 9 o'clock Eastern right here on TNCRadio.live. We know that life as a driver is not easy, but do you believe in the power of prayer? Whether you're moving down the highway or taking a break, you can take a moment right now to tell God about your needs, maybe something that concerns you or something you're just thankful for. You need someone to pray with you? No problem. Just call the TFC Global 24-hour prayer line at 866-515-9406. Or if you're using the TNCRadio.live app, just press the prayer line button to be connected to a prayer warrior who will confidentially pray with you and for you. Also, if you're willing to volunteer your time to help pray with and for others, then send us an email at info@tncradio.live and let us know. Thank you and have a blessed day.
This blog is brought to you by the Truckers Network at app.thetruckersnetwork.net. Truckers Against Trafficking can help fight modern-day slavery. Human trafficking is a real and frightening issue in the United States. It's a crime that forcefully exploits women, men, and children. Human trafficking involves transporting a person into a situation of exploitation, which can include forced labor, marriage, or prostitution. The term exploitation in this sense is commonly referred to as modern slavery. At this time, it's estimated that there are 20 to 40 million human trafficking victims internationally. According to the ACLU, the United States Department of State estimates that 14 to 17,000 people are trafficked into the United States each year. Truckers Against Trafficking exists to educate, equip, empower, and mobilize members of the trucking, bus, and energy industries to combat human trafficking. Truckers Against Trafficking goals: saturate trucking and related industries with TAT materials. Partner with law enforcement and government agencies to facilitate the investigation of human trafficking. Marshal the resources of partners to combat this crime. The Truckers Network proudly sponsors Truckers Against Trafficking and their efforts to fight against this heinous crime that's affecting hundreds of thousands of Americans each year. How truckers can help. Training video. Watch Truckers Against Trafficking's free training video and take the short quiz through their online portal. This will register you as an official TAT trained, TAT certified driver. Know the red flags. Download the Truckers Against Trafficking app and request a wallet card and window decal at tat.truckers@gmail.com. Share. Share Truckers Against Trafficking's training with others in person and through social media. How trucking companies, schools can help? Training video. Share Truckers Against Trafficking's free training video with your drivers. Request a digital file of your video or physical DVD from tat.truckers@gmail.com. Know the red flags. Tell your drivers to download the Truckers Against Trafficking app and or request wallet cards for your drivers from tat.truckers@gmail.com. Register. Register your company as trained to reflect your impact in the fight against trafficking and encourage others to do the same. This info blog was brought to you by the Truckers Network at app.thetruckersnetwork.net.
Hi, I'm Hope Savara. Join us every Monday on TNC Radio Live at 7 p.m. Eastern. It's Building Strong Minds.
Now, the rest of the story.
This past Saturday, Ronnie could be spotted sitting next to Arizona manager Torey Lovullo for the entire D-back spring training game. It's somewhat unusual for a minor league manager such as Ronnie to get a one-day stint as the bench coach of a major league team. It's even more unusual for a minor league manager to be only 29 years old. But that might not be the most unusual thing about Ronnie's baseball career. Ronnie Gajalnik always loved baseball. In fact, one of Ronnie's earliest memories was that fateful afternoon in May of 1998 when Kerry Wood struck out 20 Astros in a dominating pitching performance. Ronnie and Dad caught the game on WGN, as they often did, watching their beloved Cubs. Growing up in Central Florida, it was not at all unusual for Ronnie to skip school and accompany Dad to a spring training game or workout. Ronnie was a standout high school sports star, so it was not a surprise when the University of South Florida came calling with a scholarship. Next, it was a gold medal winning performance with the USA Pan Am team. While an on-field baseball career wasn't in the cards, staying involved in baseball certainly was. First, it was as a coach in Massachusetts. Then it was off to Hillsboro, Oregon, with new wife Andrea. Soon both were working for the team, with Ronnie working in player development and Andrea helping to run the food and beverage service. Ronnie's strengths include impeccable communication skills, middle infield play, hitting, modern pitching metrics, and, according to Ronnie, quote, paying attention, being around the right people, and learning from them, unquote. Last season, a freak accident left an opening for a first base coach with the Amarillo Sod Poodles, the Diamondbacks AA affiliate. The organization decided that Ronnie would be the perfect person to take on that role. This time, it was a new challenge, as Ronnie had been named manager of their beloved Hillsboro Hops, a high-A minor league team, to the Arizona Diamondbacks. That led to the opportunity for Ronnie to spend the day with the big league club this weekend. So, at just 29, Ronnie has already accomplished what many players turned coaches have only dreamed about. Oh, but wait. There is one more thing you should know about this young Floridian who is climbing the management chain in professional baseball. The name Ronnie is short for Veronica. Quote, no one calls me that but my mom, and only when I'm in trouble, she says. Ronnie Gajanik is a name you might want to remember, because it might not be long before we see her sitting in the dugout full-time with a major league team. And you heard about her first, right here.
But now you know the rest of the story.
So there you go, guys. Did you see it coming?
Well done.
Wow.
Did you see it coming?
I did not, but I appreciated the tie-in with the rest
of the story. That's right.
That was very good.
This is, as you know, yesterday was International Women's Day. Or was it today?
Right.
Yeah, whatever. So the thought question for tonight is your view of women in professional men's sports. It may not be long before we see somebody like Ronnie, say, coaching first base in the National League, or perhaps we've already seen women referees in the NFL. Don't have any women umpires yet in Major League Baseball, but certainly we're going to see changes. We already have our first general manager, Kim Ng, in Florida with the Marlins. So won't be long, I think, before we see a woman on the field and in the dugout as part of baseball, or perhaps as a major coordinator in the NFL. So I'm going to start with Josh this time. Josh, what do you think about Ronnie becoming an MLB manager?
I have all the respect for what she's been doing. As a Giants fan, I can tell you that Alyssa Nakken, who has been a coach with the Major League team with the Giants over the last, I think, 3 years now, she actually got to coach first base in a Major League game at one point, I think last season, if it wasn't the season before. So the groundbreaking that's happening for women is fantastic. I mean, if you are man, woman, black, white, brown, green, yellow, purple, whatever, and you're qualified to do that job, I have no issue with you holding that job. It does not. All power to her at this point. And we've seen it with the WNBA too. The assistant coach for the Spurs for so many years, her name escapes me at the moment. Maybe Ivan remembers. Is now the head coach for the Las Vegas WNBA team now. So I mean, it's the evolution of sport, and I think it's fantastic to see women that want to be involved in these major league sports just as much as anybody else.
If you've never gotten a major league hit, are you qualified to be a major league coach?
That's a great question.
That's for Ivan.
Well, that's like saying if you've never played sports, are you qualified to comment on it or write about it? In my
See you later, everybody.
Exactly. I don't think that's the measuring stick. I agree with what Josh said. I just have a little bit of a spin on it. My spin would be whatever you want to do, yes, for female. I mean, my daughter got to meet Ann Myers, and she has heard me talk highly about Ann Myers over the years. And just to give our listeners a little idea, Ann Myers grew up not too far from where Josh and I went to college. She went to a school called Sonora in La Habra, California, and she was a four-sport athlete, and of course the first female to actually be drafted in the NBA. And she's a phenomenal wrecking ball. She's a great announcer too, and so she got to meet her. But I think that women should be able to do whatever men do. The little concern I have is, and everybody would say, oh, great, here comes the but. No, there's no but to it. When you are a referee, because we've seen it in the NFL, we see it in the NBA, you've got to be able to take the same talk that the other referees talk. If you've got a play that the player doesn't feel that that's a good call, and he's in your face, you can't you can't pull a woman card. You got to just pull a ref card. It's I'm in your face. I see pinstripes. I didn't like the call. So the commentators and nobody can't say he wouldn't talk like that if it was a woman. He's going to talk like that, period, to a referee when you see the zebra stripes. So that's the only caveat I would say is you cannot expect any different treatment because you are a woman when it comes to player interaction. You're going to get yelled at. You're going to have uncomfortable conversations, and you're going to have to deal with it just like everyone else does.
And that may include being called the B word.
You're called the B word on the field. We know the amount of profanity that's used in professional and amateur sports. I mean, coaches cuss out their players all day long, and it's not uncommon for a player to go, "That's a bunch of beep, 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 coach." That has been sports, and that's not going to change simply because a woman is now either coaching or reffing.
Yeah, and I want to say too, as far as all of that is concerned, I don't see the barriers for women doing what they want as much as we saw maybe 20 years ago. But what I do see is the politics that go behind a lot of this that still have to be sorted out. And obviously there's, and I'm not saying Republican, Democrat. That's not the kind of politics I'm talking about. I'm just talking about exactly what you're saying, Ivan, with regards to, if a woman wants to be a referee in a male-dominated sport like, the NBA, yes, the players are going to look at you as a referee. They're not going to look at you as a woman referee or a male referee. So it's going to be an interesting dynamic to see how that evolves for women referees, women managers. Becky Hammon, by the way, was the coach of the Las Vegas Aces that I was trying to remember. But again, if you're qualified to do whatever job it is that you are going after, then I have no issues with it. You have every right to be, a disabled, non-competitive athlete like Josh Banker and be a sports radio talk show host because, maybe I haven't played it, firsthand. I've never been on a hockey ice rink. But I can talk about hockey. I can talk about racing. I can, whatever the case may be. If you study and learn and get good at your craft, then you have every right to pursue those dreams.
And let me say this, and I'm going to say it speaking as a black man in the United States of America, being raised by a black father who is absolutely one of my heroes. My dad raised 5 kids, 3 boys and 2 girls. And what he told me growing up is like, look it. Yeah, you're born black in this country. But guess what? If you go out there and bust your butt and put your best foot forward, people are going to forget that you're a black person, and they're just going to look at you as the guy who can get the job done. And that's the way you have to approach it. You have to approach it as, I'm the person that can get the job done. Regardless of my gender, I'm here because of my ability.
So the girl has to be the guy who gets the job done?
The girl has to be the girl who gets the job done. My apologies for crossing it over. No, you're not going to get me on that one.
And now you know the rest.
I can see the hate mail coming now.
I appreciate where you're both coming from. We could get into another discussion at some point. We ought to, as we consider National Women's Month and all that good stuff. Could a woman fill the role of Tim McCarver, Jack Buck, or Vin Scully?
Absolutely.
Well, we'll discuss that more at a different time. I'm going to propose no. They've got a different role, but that's okay. You don't have to be the same.
I had to give you the
Yeah, so we'll have to talk about that at a different time. You're listening to TNCRadio.live. This is Clutch Time Sports with Anderson and Banker. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
I'm Shelley Johnson with Kathy Tuccaro. You can hear us Tuesdays on TNCRadio.live at 8 p.m. Eastern on Women Road Warriors. And don't miss Steve Summers' Overnight Drive right here on TNCRadio.live Weeknights, midnight to 5 a.m. Eastern. Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Dr. Christopher Cortman, and now for the Mental Health Minute. A farmer named Pat was attempting to irrigate the fields and has an archaic handheld pump to move the water from the well onto the crops. And so Pat's pumping and pumping and pumping, and only a little bit of water drips out onto the crop. And Pat wonders what's going on. So Pat runs over to the well and sees that there's very little water left. So Pat runs back and pumps and pumps and pumps and pumps, and very little water emerges. So Pat runs back to the well and looks in the well, and there's no water left whatsoever. So Pat runs back and pumps and pumps and pumps and pumps, and no water comes out. So Pat runs back to the well and looks, and there's no water left. So runs back and pumps and pumps. What is wrong with this story? Well, somehow there's a disconnect. Pat's not getting the message that no matter how hard I pump, I cannot get water where there is no water. Would we do that in relationships? We do that all the time. We try so hard. We give so much. We stay connected. We love with everything we have, continuing to hope that the other person, our partners, our dates, our love will return the love with investment of their own, only to find out at some point that that's never going to happen, because in order for that to happen, there has to be some water in the well in the first place. I want to teach you about capacity and willingness. Unless your partner has the capacity to give love, first of all, and the willingness to share love, it doesn't matter how hard you work. It doesn't matter how much you love. It doesn't matter how hard you pump.
Trucking Moves America Forward, or TMAF, is boosting the image of the industry by telling the story of trucking, and your story can be part of it. Upload a photo, tell us what you love about trucking, or send us a story about a good deed or charitable act in trucking. Be sure to follow us on social media and contact us through truckingmovesamerica.com. That's truckingmovesamerica.com.
Welcome back to Clutch Time Sports. I'm your co-host, Ivan Ennis, along with my main man, Mr. Josh Banker. And please, folks, don't forget to go out there and check us out on IG, Instagram, and Twitter. We are at Clutch Time TNC. Like to hear from you. Go ahead and follow us. We sometimes put some goofy stuff out there, but it's usually, I'd say, about 99% sports related, unless there's something funny to do with sports and animals and things of that nature. But anyways, we're in the second quarter. Huh?
Or birthdays.
Or birthdays. Yeah, I saw that, man. I appreciate that.
That's why I thought you were talking about goofy stuff, but maybe I was,
Well, sometimes I'll put those little funny things they do with the dogs on there that are just hilarious. Like catching a, you ever see the one where the deer is playing soccer and he gets the ball in the goalie and he just starts doing like he's doing the dance that they do when they score? So I think those things are kind of funny. But we are in the second quarter. Normally we would be doing Trey Rangs right now, but we're going to put that on the shelf for this week because we wanted to get back to our preview of the MLB American League. As you know, it's the first quarter we covered the East. Mr. JB, let's get to the Central League, sir.
Yeah, let's get to the Central Division with, no, that's okay. There's, this was a kind of a lackluster division last year, if we're being honest. There's only one team that finished above 500, and that is Ivan's favorite former Indians team, the Cleveland Guardians, who finished.
No, you got to say it right. You got to say Guardians.
Well, sure, whatever you want to call them these days. The Guardians finished 22 games above 500, which I think a lot of people were surprised about. And they're a young team that added another big hitter in the middle of their lineup in Josh Bell. He's going to be mainly their DH, but he can play first base as well. And they've got a really good young pitching staff too. Shane Bieber is still the ace of that staff, but he'll be joined with Tristan McKenzie, Cal Quantrill, and others. And they've got probably the deepest and most underrated bullpen, led by Emmanuel Clase and James Karinchak. So I can't see a huge increase of wins from a lot of these other teams in this division. So to see the Guardians at or around 92 wins again this year, I think is doable.
I think the Guardians had a heck of a season. How many postseason games, series did they win? Did they get one or two? I can't remember.
I don't think they got any, actually.
Okay. But they made it to the postseason.
Yeah, I think they got to the Yankees.
Yes.
And the Yankees beat them.
But they did not beat them in 3 games,
No.
if I'm correct.
No.
So the Yankees, had a struggle playing the Cleveland Guardians.
Right.
And when you talk about Josh Bell, I kind of want to go off script just a little bit here. Big hitters are big hitters. Josh Bell's not a little guy. That guy's like 6'4". And I know his average is like 262 or 266, somewhere around there. I think he is just going to being a DH, he's going to be huge for them. I love Cleveland. I love the way they're playing right now. Sorry, I want to say the Tribe. I just can't not say the Tribe when I see them, but I just enjoy, and I think their arms, you said it best, their arms. I mean, Shane Bieber is just going to come out killing them, and Emmanuel and James, I can never say his last name.
Karinchak.
How do you say it? Karinchak, thank you. I just think that they are going to be a team that everybody's going to look back, and they're going to be at the head of the Central Division again.
Yeah, it will leave our official predictions for down the road. But yeah, if you look at the rest of the division, Chicago, I think is probably going to be their biggest rival or opponent in this division. On paper, they lost Jose Abreu at first base, which is a huge hitter, but man, they were just killed by injuries last year. Tim Anderson, Luis Robert, Eloy Jimenez. But you get all those guys back, and then you throw in a veteran like Andrew Benintendi to go with their great pitching staff, Dylan Cease and Lucas Giolito. And maybe even more importantly, they got rid of Tony La Russa, who I think just kind of weighed them down a little bit.
Yeah.
I think the new voice of Pedro Grifol, their new manager, is going to do some wonders for them. And if they could just stay healthy, I could see them back above 90 wins this year. And what's interesting is if you look below them, the Minnesota Twins, they were
Twinkies.
They were just they were basically the division leader for most of last year until they tanked September. And then they had the whole Carlos Correa debacle in the offseason where they thought he was going to the Giants and then the Mets. And then lo and behold, here he is back on this team. So, while they have him back in the fold, the key to them is going to be Byron Buxton. That guy is, a sexy sleeper just about every year for MVP, but he just can't stay healthy. If they could get even 500 at bats out of him, which it sounds like a big number, but in the major leagues, it's not unfathomable to get even over 600. So he hasn't even had over 400 over the last couple of years, and they have to get him healthy to be a major contender. And it's hard to see. Well, we have the Tigers and Royals kind of sitting right there behind them. Both very young teams. They have major work to even sniff 500. The Tigers get a healthy Austin Meadows back, and if they can keep Riley Green and Spencer Torkelson back on their upward swing as phenoms as they were touted to be, maybe they get close to 500. But they're just young and inexperienced, and it'll be interesting to take that step. And same with the Royals. Okay, they got Aroldis Chapman from the Yankees, but what kind of Aroldis Chapman are we going to get? I mean, he's going to be one of those guys, kind of like what I think the Red Sox are going to be, like Tom had said, where if Chapman does anything, he's a trade piece.
Yeah,
right.
He's going to be a guy that brings back a bunch of potential prospects to a contender at the deadline. So if the Royals get to maybe even 75 wins this year, I'd be surprised as the season goes.
The only place where I would not disagree, but kind of expound upon a little bit, I think that the Tigers have an amazing farm system right now. And they have a lot of things
that are
it's going to be very interesting to see where this young team goes. Not only this year, this year, I think there's going to be marked improvement. Can they get to 500? They could. It'll be on the back of somebody else, though. It'll mean that the Twins are not
tanking.
The Twins are not who we think they are. But the Tigers could get to 500, and if they do, watch out, Tigers, say 2-3 years from now, you may be building a dynasty or a team that could become kind of a dynasty, because you know who they remind me of?
Who?
The Astros in 16.
True, but I don't know we're at the point yet where we can start getting excited about these guys until they actually put together full seasons.
That's what I'm saying.
The field.
I want to see if they get to 500 this year. I'm telling you, this is a team that could really become something.
Yeah, and that's.
If they don't, because prospects you don't know. If they don't, then I'll take it all back. But
Tom, I will agree with you on this, and I have to say this. I think you guys would agree with this too. One of the things that Detroit plays into, we call them the D. What up, though, for you those that are around the Detroit area? The D has been a very patient club. They have always been very patient when it comes to young players, and the reason why they have such a good farming system is that patience. Where your other teams, where especially in the Central, I would say the Guardians patient, Minnesota, Chicago not as patient, and I agree with you. I think 3-4 years from now, Detroit is going to be a completely different club than what we're talking about right now. But it's just that patience that they've always had as long as I can remember.
Yeah, I for now, though, until they start showing that spark of, say, like what the Blue Jays have been showing, or even the Orioles have been showing the last couple of years, it's really more of the Miguel Cabrera farewell tour.
Agreed, but I think that's what we're going to see this year. I think this is the year where we go, would you look at that? They did it quietly. It wasn't they didn't have like some kind of huge run or something, but at the end of the year, they put in a really good year, and watch out for this young group of talent.
Yeah, they finished 30 games below 500. So to go, as funny as it sounds for us to say, it'd be great to see them back at 500. That's a big step. 15-game swing one way or the other is a big deal. Huge. And that is certainly something that if you could get those big guys, the Torkelsons and the Greens and the Meadows to come back and play to what they are hoping to get out of them, that's a huge positive building step for that team.
75-85 would be proving what I'm saying. Watch out. Here they come.
I agree.
But that's what they did every time they've won a World Series. You think about the last time they won a World Series, they started building that team 2-3 years prior to that World Series.
And I'll throw this out. What we saw in Minnesota near the end of last season is really Minnesota. That's what Minnesota really is. They're not who they pretended to be.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's interesting too, because I do believe that they really took advantage of a lot of those White Sox injuries and kind of sailed through the first 2/3 of the season before they really tanked in August and September. And that's when Cleveland just decided, you know what, we know that this is ripe for the taking, and we're going to do it.
Yeah, they got found out.
Yeah, that's true. And maybe it was my brother and I visiting them in July, or maybe it was August. I can't remember now. I think it was August.
They never recovered.
Yeah, they won those 2 games. I think those were the only 2 they won for the rest of the season.
Yeah, that was it.
Well, interesting, guys. We've got a very dynamic division coming up here next that I know Tom Kelly's going to have some.
Gosh, jeez, give me a break.
The American League West. We'll get a hold of that one when the fourth quarter comes around here on Clutch Time Sports on TNCRadio.live.
TNCRadio.live. your commercial driver navigation station.
We're all about the news, information, entertainment, talk radio, music, comedy, and topics truckers want to hear. I'm Shelley Johnson with Tom Kelly. We're talking with retired NASA engineer Homer Hickam, who's the author of Rocket Boys, which inspired the movie October Sky. We're talking with Alex Debogorski. He's one of the original stars of Ice Road Truckers. Chip Davis of Mannheim Steamroller. Music icon and Grammy Award-winning country artist Lee Greenwood. We're speaking with racing legend Mario Andretti. Michael Martin Murphey is a legend on the music scene with wonderful ballads and hits like Wildfire and Cowboy Logic. Curtis Grimes.
Michael McDowell, the 2021 Daytona 500 winner.
Our guest this afternoon is Tom Bodett. You know the name, you know the voice.
The Carolina Monkey Gouger, Jimmy Artis. Today we have the honor of speaking again with Long Haul Paul. Today we have Claire Dunn and Logan Mize with us. Stay tuned and stay safe with TNCRadio.live.
8 fun facts about truckers. It may be likely that when asked about your driving career and what all it involves, you're able to rattle off some answers like far from home, little sleep, heavy loads, big rigs, lots of waiting, gas stops and rest stops.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems. For example, stiction. Found throughout the oil system, stiction is the sticky friction that negatively impacts your engine's ability to function at an optimal level. The molecular structure of oil is a hydrocarbon. The engine's extreme heat, tight tolerances, and high pressure cause the oil to break down and release hydrogen, leaving behind varnish, a carbon-based deposit. The varnish clings to the engine's moving parts, creating drag on the turbocharger, oil pump, and pistons. Symptoms of stiction include a rough idle and the loss of fuel economy and performance. Hot Shot Secret Stiction Eliminator delivers a 98% clean rating in third-party scrub tests. Its synthetic cleaner plus nano lubricant contains no harmful solvents and is formulated to be left in the engine to safely dissolve stiction for thousands of miles. It works as you drive.
Stiction Eliminator is available at truck stops, Tractor Supply, O'Reilly's Auto Parts, and online at HotShotSecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
Welcome back, everybody. Sorry, Ivan. Didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go for it, man.
Yeah, we're in the middle of our MLB preview over the next 3 weeks here, and we're in the American League. And next week we'll set up the senior circuit for you, the National League, and then we'll have our predictions and some hot takes. Hot takes. Sorry, I sound like an actor right there. But anyway, we need more cowbell. Anyway, let's head over to the American League East. Mr. Tom Kelly.
You mean West?
Or sorry, American League West. Did I say East? My bad.
Yeah, that's okay.
American League West, because I know Ivan wants to talk about the East some more, but we want to give Tom Kelly a chance to talk about the Houston Astros, who finished at 106-56. And yes, they've got, a big Justin Verlander-sized hole to fill. But they've got Framber Valdez, Christian Javier, Luis Garcia, all these young guys who could easily step up to be that guy for Verlander. And they, of course, got Jose Abreu from the White Sox to play first base. So this is going to be another dangerous team. And 106 wins last year, I don't think is even unreasonable to think that they can get that high again this year. But what I think could alleviate some of that pressure off of them a little bit is to see if the rest of this division has any life left in them. I think the Mariners do. They finished 1972 and finally broke their huge playoff drought. In fact, they won a playoff series and got to face the Yankees. Actually, no, they faced the Mariners, or the Astros, my bad, in the second round of the playoffs. They are going to have a full year out of their mid-season pitching acquisition, Luis Castillo. They've got another big year, I'm sure, out of breakout star Julio Rodriguez from last year. Then they got more offense. They got Teoscar Hernandez from Toronto, who we mentioned earlier. They got A.J. Pollock from the Dodgers, Colton Wong from the Brewers. So if their pitching holds up, they could score enough runs and maybe even put a scare into Houston, although I'm sure Tom Kelly's not quite quaking in his boots yet. The one team in this division, well, actually there's two of them, but did you all know that Shohei Ohtani is a free agent this year? Yeah, it's probably the biggest unkept secret in baseball, but it's the biggest cloud hanging over any team in baseball at this point too. On paper, if their offense can stay healthy, Anthony Rendon, they have a lineup that really could rival just about anybody's in the division. They added Hunter Renfroe, Brandon Drury as well. But after Ohtani, who can they really count on in the pitching department? That's going to be their big question mark. They brought Tyler Anderson over from the Dodgers after he went 15-5 last year, but those 15 wins were a third of his career total, which has spanned more than 7 years now. So can they get a guy like Reed Detmers to be that young up and comer to be the stud that they're hoping to be? And meanwhile, you got the Texas Rangers, who finished 68-94 last year, and they spent, I think, the gross domestic product of Texas on their players, and they even added more by grabbing Jacob deGrom from the Mets. So, with him and Marcus Semien, Corey Seager, Adolis Garcia, and all these others, can the money bring wins? Last year it sure didn't. Who knows what it's going to be? And then Oakland, the AAA team of Major League Baseball, stadium's a dump, their roster's a dumpster fire, so maybe a possible relocation to Vegas might be the only positive coming out of Oakland this year. I just don't see much of anything from those guys. We got 4 minutes left, so Mr. Kelly, I'm going to start with you. Does anybody present even a scare to you in this division as an Astros fan?
As an Astros fan, yes. The Astros, who I predict will finish no better than third.
Really?
And have a disappointing season across the board from injuries and lackluster play. They'll make it through the season without firing Dusty Baker, but this will be his last season. And Jeremy Pena will fall way off in his sophomore slump, and it'll be a tough year for him. And I say that. I say that because everybody else in baseball is going after them. Everybody is going to measure themselves as to whether or not they can beat the Astros. And quite frankly, the Astros didn't do anything to really improve themselves. Abreu's a nice find. Thank you. And cheap compared to what most of the other teams paid. But I just don't see the team. I think the hunger will be out. They've proved everything that they need to prove. And, if last year, if your arm hurt, you kept it to yourself and you pitched harder. This year, if your arm hurts, you're going to take a couple of weeks off. And if your toe hurts, I just think, they were on an adrenaline rush from game one last year. They were determined from the very beginning of the season to win it all. And they sure did, and they did it awesome, and I'm very proud of them. But I look at what everybody else in the division has done, and I think they're going to be pulled way back in. But remember now, we have the expanded playoffs.
Right.
They're not as worried. They don't feel like they have to win 106 games this year.
Right.
They can win 90 games, make the playoffs, and still perhaps go to the series.
A la the Phillies.
Absolutely. So they don't. I don't think the pressure's there on them the way it is the Mariners or the Rangers or the Angels, for that matter, who are all going to be just doing every single thing they can to win every single game. And the Astros, they'll show up, they'll play good ball, and they'll be right there. But I don't think that you're going to see 106 wins out of them.
Ivan, we got about a minute left. What do you think?
They were cooking. I have to take my hat off to them because they really came on strong. They peaked at the right time, and they were cooking to pull up 106 games. Seattle, I'm really excited about what Seattle's going to bring to the table.
Very excited.
I'm very excited with them. I think they're going to be some fun baseball to watch this year. I think they'll do better than 90 games. Maybe even if they do an extra 5, but I think it'll be a lot better. I love the way you talked about Oakland. I don't know. Oakland, muddy ball. I think they just need to start all over. And I don't know where they're gonna go. I mean,
blow
right
everything
now,
up.
Yeah, it's like, where are they even gonna be next year? Let's forget about this year. Where's their stadium gonna be next year? Where are they moving to?
Yep. No, I agree with you. A lot of question marks in the American League this year.
30 seconds.
Yep. So we're going to hit the National League next week. Hope you guys tune in for that. Thanks for tuning in tonight. You're listening to Clutch Time Sports right here on TNC Radio.live. See you next week, everyone.